Ooh, yeah. Funny how the rules all change when the drama hits your gate. Ain't that rich? Every night the dogs were barking, everybody slept half awake. Security gates and pepper spray, just trying to make it through the day. Mama said lock all the windows, daddy checked the doors twice more. Neighborhood WhatsApp blowing up, another family hit next door. Black, white and brown together, regular folks just getting by. Praying sirens meant protection instead of just another drive-by. People beg for intervention, cried on TV, wrote petitions, but nobody up in power really seemed to listen. But now it matters, now it's serious, now they're shocked and all delirious. Suddenly crime's a national conversation. Funny little case of Naledi's expropriation. They shrugged when ordinary people cried. Now they're horrified somebody stole their ride. Oh, now the panic's sweeping the nation. Welcome to the home invasion. For years the people lived defensive, bars on windows, electric wire. Kids grew up hearing helicopters, mama whispering, stay low, stay quiet. The cops would take the statement, file the papers nice and neat. Then another house got empty, just another headline in the street. But wait a minute, stop the presses, this one climbed the party wall. TV's gone and laptops missing, phones and car and all. Now the cameras gather quickly, now the ministers look grim. Amazing how a problem grows when it finally reaches them. Now it matters, now it's urgent, now the speeches sound detergent. Everybody's promising salvation after Naledi's expropriation. Oh, the irony's delicious, baby. Karma got suspicious lately. Now they're preaching law and restoration after the home invasion. Oh no, not the Toyota. Call a task force, deploy special units. Girl, the people been asking for that for years. Regular staffers stood their ground while fear kept making rounds, but nobody heard the desperation till the burglars hit the administration. Now it matters, now they see it different too. Now that they feel it, funny how perspective changes stations with a little expropriation. Now lady, welcome to the story where the people lack the glory. Maybe now there'll be some realization about the home invasion nation. Ooh, funny how fast priorities change when the burglars know your name.
Marvin Devine. I'm saying bye to all the lies and all the times you cried, saying that I wasn't right, yet I was right by your side. You manipulator, playing games, your friends commentators, and I don't know what you say about our private conversations, but it's got them hating thanks to all the rumors you be claiming. It's cool, I'm done with you, so they can throw you a celebration. You gon' hate it when you see me with somebody living better. I'm trying to tell you that me just doing me gon' have you jealous.
Sunday, May 25th, 2026. Dafatai. Let's get going, folks. This is the Sunday edition on Chris Wyatt Reports. Welcome back to the program. Lots of news here to talk about today, including the home invasion burglary of a former foreign minister, Naledi Pandor, and I think she was education minister too before that, who set the standards down to 30%. That would be Naledi Pandor, the Israeli Gaza terror supporter. Yes, Naledi Pandor. So her home was burglarized, not to mention Tokyo Sexuality speaks out in the Mpofu Walsh podcast. No doubt that one's going to get millions of views, and it deserves millions of views. Mpofu Walsh, who's a bit of a silly fellow, but that's what happens when nepotism carries the untalented. But nonetheless, in that podcast, Tokyo Sexuality breaks ranks with Cyril Ramaphosa. It's all falling apart for Cyril now. It's all falling apart for the ANC. Things are getting grim for the angry, naughty children who will be facing a comeuppance on November 4th. It's a shame they didn't postpone it for a week. Watch for that election to be postponed between now and then. You heard it here first, May 24th, 6 months before the election. Don't be surprised that the election is postponed by a month or two before it takes place. We shall see. Let's get today's news, ladies and gentlemen. The news for today, the 24th, almost said 26th, 24th of May, 2026. News analysis coming your way right now here on the Sunday edition. ANC heavy hitters say no. Nobody wants the ANC mayoral position in Johannesburg. They don't want to be branded by the failure of this. Only the crazy Helen Zille has actually stepped forward for the DA, and I think someone for the Action SA stepped forward too, but they haven't got a snowball's chance. The ANC search for mayoral candidate Joburg has not yielded any results. They don't want it. Top of the wish list, former Deputy Finance Minister and Director of Investment Holding firm Labasa, Jabu Moleki, ABSA CEO and former Joburg Finance MMC Kenny Fila, and former Gauteng Premier and COSATU President Mobazima Shilowa. None of them will do the job. None of them will do the job. ANC bigwigs are all staying away. They have no interest in doing this whatsoever. Nope. Smart move. Meanwhile, Tokyo Sexuality, in some earth-shattering news from the Mpofu Walsh podcast, says that Cyril Ramaphosa is a liar. Imagine that. Can you imagine that, folks? Cyril's a liar. Who thought that would ever be the case? Tokyo Sexuality, ANC veteran, is accused Ramaphosa of being dishonest about the Phala Phala scandal. Wow. Sexuality said Ramaphosa's explanation is a cock and bull story, adding that he should appear before the impeachment committee and answer questions related to Phala Phala. He appeared on an interview with Sizwe Mpofu Walsh on the SMWX podcast. In the interview, Sexuality said Ramaphosa lied to us, adding that it's quite clear that he will have to come before the impeachment committee and answer questions. Now, that's some bad mojo for Cyril Ramaphosa. Ramaphosa, excuse me. But it's all about the Phala Phala scandal, ladies and gentlemen. The entire explanation surrounding the hidden cash is a cock and bull story. It's a childish story. This story must be tested. How did he come to this country with his dollars? The airport records don't have him showing even up.
Money stuffed in my sofa, a treasure untold. Sierra's got a game ranch, stories untold. Phala Phala, rinse joint, glimmer and gold. Stay overnight, don't you stray. Couch cushions hide a rainy day. Phala Phala, where the secrets play. Under the cushions, the cash will stay. Phala Phala, don't give it away. Rainy day, rainy day. Hey. Antelope roam where the moonlight beams, luxury whispers in velvet dreams. Cyril laughs, but nothing's as it seems.
Liar, liar, pants on fire.
Game of chance or a clever scheme, hidden fortune stitched in the seam. You never know till you're caught in the stream. Phala Phala, where the secrets play. Under the cushions, the cash will stay. Phala Phala, don't give it away. Rainy day, rainy day. Hey.
Cyril lied. So says Tokyo Sexuality. A major break inside the ANC. Liar, liar, pants on fire. Childish juvenile story that nobody fell for except the ANC and the fake media in South Africa. Now it's time to answer for it.
Where the secrets play under the cushions, the cash will stay. Phala Phala, don't give it away. Rainy day, rainy day. Hey.
Cyril, caught up in the biggest scandal one can imagine. This is the one money laundering activity you know about. What about all the other flights and deposits and arrivals stuffed in cushions? Money hidden for 2 months in a cushion rather than put in a bank. Why would you do that? Because you're laundering money. What else? What's this payoff for? Who did it really come from? Ask yourself those questions, ladies and gentlemen. Those are the questions remain unanswered. No criminal charges filed for money laundering, customs and immigration violation, illegal use of the VIP protection services, perversion of the means of justice, kidnapping, torture, bribery. Not a single criminal charge laid for any of that. Any of that. Interesting. Interesting. The entire explanation surrounding the hidden cash is a cock and bull story. It's a childish story, says Tokyo Sexwally. This story must be tested. How did he come to this country with his dollars? Adding that Ramaphosa should answer questions to South Africans. The airport and SARS records say he never arrived. Exactly. There are no records of this man coming in the country. No records of him coming in the country, let alone declaring $580,000 in cash, which News 24 claims now is actually more than that. We were told, of course, that that was between $4 and $8 million by Arthur Frazier. Yep. He had a scandal dragging down and damaging the credibility of critical state institutions. Well, none of the institutions under the South African government are even remotely credible at this stage. So they're not dragging anything down. The SAPS, the South African Revenue Service, and the South African Reserve Bank, they will have to appear and explain how a man with so much money came to the country has put the name of our president in serious jeopardy. The country cannot be torturing like this and just remain quiet, hoping things will happen else somewhere. Well, my question to Tokyo Sexwally, why did it take you 6 years? Why did it take you 3 years after it was publicly known to make this statement? Why wait now? Because Tokyo Sexwally is doing this for political gain, not because he deep in his heart cares about this. Tokyo Sexwally doesn't care deep in his heart about tarnishing Cyril Ramaphosa of the ANC. What Tokyo Sexwally cares about is Tokyo Sexwally and his interest. And that is why after waiting 3 years, when I've been talking about this for 3 years plus, he finally steps forward and has something to say in the Pofu Walsh. I challenge Tokyo Sexwally to come on my program. You have an open invitation, sir. You will be treated with respect. You will be treated fairly and justly. But you're welcome to come on my program. And please explain to me why you waited 3 years when those of us who've been reporting the facts for 3 years have been reporting it. And only now, someone influential and powerful within the ANC, you finally step forward and tell the truth about what's happening here. Why? Why? Political analyst Sandile Swana said that Tokyo Sexwally's views reflect the fact there are differing opinions about the Phala Phala scandal among ANC senior leaders. There are no different opinions among people who believe in the rule of law. People believe in the rule of law. There are no differing opinions. There is criminal activity here that must be investigated and prosecuted. Case is that. Simple as that. We expect a full inquiry will reveal that there were officials within SARS, SRB, and SAPS who did not do the job properly and were part of the cover for Phala Phala. That is why we're saying that Ramaphosa and ANC cannot easily survive the impact of Phala Phala scandal once the inquiry goes into sessions, because it's going to reveal that state institutions were compromised by Ramaphosa. Well, state institutions have been compromised since day one by the ANC, going all the way back to Tony Yangani and his bribe. Unbelievable, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. More than 109,000 illegal aliens arrested and deported in 5 years. So that's only 21,000 a year. That's 22,000 a year. That's not much. Home Affairs Minister Leon Schreiber says 109,735 undocumented foreigners, illegal aliens, have been arrested and deported. This emerged in a written reply to parliamentary questions by MK Party MP Prince Mazene. $8,180 employers have been charged for employing foreigners without valid work permits. Now, here's my question. How many Home Affairs officials employ illegal Zimbabweans as domestics? How many Home Affairs, how many government ministers, how many government officials employ illegal Zimbabweans as domestics? Let's do an audit on that. Let's find out how many of them employ illegal Zimbabweans in the country illegally as their domestic workers. Anybody want to check in on that? Yeah. That would be truly revealing, wouldn't it now? That would be truly revealing. These hypocrites. Well, the names of those people brutally murdered at the Kruger National Park have been released to the public. The couple killed in Kruger, identified as Dina Murray, 73, and Ernst Murray, 71, from Mossel Bay. Someone tried to claim they're from Limpopo, but apparently they're from Mossel Bay. Limpopo police have launched an investigation into the circumstances surrounding their deaths after their bodies were discovered in a river in the park on the 22nd. According to Cape Times, the Murray couple entered the park Sunday, May 17th, were last seen live on Wednesday. And they weren't found until Friday. Thoughts and prayers for the brutal slaying of these South Africans. More white South Africans murdered in the country. Armed robbers storm ex-Minister Naledi Pandor's home, flee with a car and electronics. Former International Relations and Cooperation Minister Naledi Pandor and her family were held at gunpoint. Oh, she was held at gunpoint. What's that like, Naledi? Tell us about that, Jabba. Tell us all about what it's like to be held at gunpoint as you laughed off the sufferings and miseries of South Africans for years in your privileged elite little cater life. What's that like? Held at gunpoint. Wow. 3 balaclava-clad men stormed the family's home at 21:30 in the north of the country's capital. Came just hours after police minister released crime statistics. They fled with the family's car, later found abandoned in Mamelodi East. 2 iPhones, 2 television sets, and 1 laptop. Gunmen storm ex-minister Naledi Pandor's home and flee with valuables. Police are working around the clock to trace and apprehend those responsible. Funny, the police are working around the clock, but if your home is burgled, they don't even come. When you're tortured and murdered, they report it as a house robbery. Days later, Brits last year. When you're robbed, the police aren't there, but they're working around the clock to solve the Naledi Pandor. Yes, in fact, ladies and gentlemen, a manhunt has been launched. A manhunt has been launched to recover the iPhones of Naledi Pandor. A manhunt. There's no manhunt when your home was robbed. The District Police Commissioner of Shwane, Major General Sam Matine, visit the family to provide an update on the project. Oh, you get a 2-star general to come tell you what happened. Ladies and gentlemen, expropriation without compensation is, in fact, taking place in South Africa. Prima facie evidence right here, the Naledi Pandor case, expropriation without compensation. Her property was stolen without her consent. This is what we call reparations for the historically disadvantaged, taken from Naledi Pandor. South Africa has received 3.5 million doses of foot and mouth disease vaccine from abroad. It's the first batch of, oh, they haven't got 3.5 million. See, that's a lie. It receives record 3.5 million. No, they received the first batch of the 3.5 million. They haven't got 3.5 million. Boy, that's a big difference right there. That is a big difference, right? See that fake news? Fake news. South Africa receives 3.5 million foot and mouth. They didn't receive 3.5 million. They received the first batch. And what is that? 10,000, 100,000, 800,000? See, you can't trust anything in the media. It's just a bunch of lies. Clickbait titles. This is the largest single consignment of foot and mouth disease vaccines ever imported into South Africa. Provinces must now move with speed and urgency to scale up frontline vaccination efforts to protect our national herd of approximately 14 million cattle, says Steenhuisen. Interesting. The acquisition of 13.5 million doses in just 4 months demonstrates the seriousness with which we are confronting this disease, says John Steenhuisen. Of course, that is your white Minister of Agriculture who ignored this crisis for 2 years, who 3 times after promising to come on my program in April and May of 2025 to discuss the foot and mouth disease pandemic in South Africa, bailed on me 3 times. Your white Minister of Agriculture. Amalia, please watch People's Eye with Judge Fonze. This is one hell of a story there. You need your insight. You know why I said Judge Fonze. Okay, thank you for that, Amalia. I'll make a note of that. Okay, come on, my chat's not catching up. There it is. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Yeah, so we'll keep an eye on that. Got it. Okay, I made a note of that, so text I have. Mossad has got her iPhone. Yeah, maybe. Maybe Mossad was behind it. They want her iPhone to find out where all the terrorists from Hamas are located at. Maybe the CIA's behind. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Right here now. The CIA is behind the theft of Naledi Pandor's iPhones. They stole her iPhones so they could get access to all the terror network people from the Iranian regime. My goodness. Well, we don't know, Denise, that their bodies were intact. We don't know that they were not picked apart by birds. So I'm trying not to be gross about that. Sri Lanka Commission probe leads to the arrest of the SAP's forensics captain in Pretoria. Another crooked cop arrested. Well, allegedly crooked. South African Police Service captain attached to the Forensic Science Laboratory has been arrested in Pretoria and charged with defeating the ends of justice. Police spokesman Brigadier Athelinda Mata said. The arrest linked to several high-profile murder investigations. Evidence before the Sri Lanka Commission followed a raid where investigators seized ballistic reports, ammunition, and other evidential material. Wow, so we can't trust the forensics. Well, and here I am talking about how we need forensics in South African Police Service, and we obviously can't trust it. My goodness. African ambassadors in South Africa are worried about xenophobia, fearing for their safety. Can the government guarantee the safety of immigrants at an Africa Day event? Not really. African ambassadors do not believe they can, which is why they plan to boycott South Africa's main Africa Day event in Northwest. Andre Nzapakaya, the ambassador of the Central African Republic and dean of the African Ambassadorial Corps, told Sunday Times the decision to stay away from the event at a stadium in Moraleng was prompted by fears for the safety of non-locals. Ironically, the keynote speaker will, of course, be PA leader Gate McKenzie, who often makes statements about illegal immigrants. Yeah, of course, because he hates them. There will be 1,000 people attending, and we cannot give these people assurances they will be secure. It's a collective decision, and we have to be responsible for people. So foreign ambassadors telling people to stay away from that event. Well, Max Dupree has a new book. Max Dupree and his self-loathing white racism against white people, still going on and on, retelling history, lying about it. Of course, he claims that he's telling the true history. His slavish lapdog, Peter du Toit, lapping up the boots of Max Dupree. In an era when social media influencers and ideological warriors proudly peacock their ignorance about South African history and politics, Max Dupree's latest book sets the record straight. Does it? Does it set the record straight? Yeah. In an era when social media influencers and ideological warriors proudly peacock their ignorance about South African history, that would be Peter du Toit, George Claassen, and the other clowns at News 24. They proudly peacock their ignorance of South African history and their lies about solidarity and Afro-reform. That's what this book is really about. It's a hit job on solidarity and Afro-reform. Dupree has been a journalist for more than 50 years. Yeah, writing bullshit stories, witnessing apartheid reach its apogee, watching contradictions in the system render it unworkable, and ultimately witnessing its collapse. It didn't collapse. They gave it up. There was a big difference. See, that's the difference. See, the ANC has collapsed governance in South Africa. The National Party handed over governance. They didn't collapse. The apartheid state didn't collapse. It didn't collapse. It wasn't bankrupt. It wasn't dissolved. It didn't just fritter away. They handed over the reins. See, already we have a lie there from Peter du Toit, who is already trying to rewrite history because Peter du Toit is a propagandist at Cockprot 24. Cockprot 24's Peter du Toit already rewriting history. His insight into the origins, reasons for apartheid, and the dominance of white political power is not based on social media threads or podbro musings. He lived through South Africa's most turbulent years as a working journalist, knew the major actors, and reported on events when political upheaval roiled the country. Although the event, see, that's once again, Peter du Toit, who acts as if he's some kind of oracle telling stories about South Africa, is actually talking about himself, his podbro musings. See how these little scumbags in the fake legacy media try to discredit people who actually know what they're talking about? See, podcasts and vlogs are done by people who are eminent. Victor Davis Hanson does them. You don't get much smarter or better as a historian than Victor Davis Hanson. So yeah, this is just another effort to delegitimize people who actually are telling the truth about the history of South Africa and prop up a communist piece of crap, Max Dupree. Although the events are well known, already wrote about his experiences in Pale Native, Memoirs of Renegade Reporter, and others. This time, Dupree analyzes those events with the benefit of age and experience, broaching difficult issues connecting him to contemporary South Africa, and that is where the book's true value lies. Its true value lies in kindling. He even apologizes in his introduction. If this book angers or irritates you, and there's no doubt that it will enrage many, he writes about FW de Klerk's lies, the damage caused by ANC's armed struggle, and AfriForum and Solidarity. It's long for a failed South Africa. So this communist says that AfriForum and Solidarity want a failed South Africa. They're the only institutions in the private sector that are actually building a new South Africa. Building universities, building technical schools, building vocational schools, running neighborhood patrols. And this scumbag racist Max Dupree, his race hustling commentary, anti-white screed is about that. Give me a break. He talks about his experience in Soweto in 76, the illusion of white South Africa, and a new Afrikaner nationalism. He reminds readers that Flip Buys, Kali Kriel, and Dirk Herman all campaigned for the no vote ahead of the 1992 referendum and had roots in far-right politics. Today, he argues, their position remains essentially the same, only expressed in more acceptable language. Dupree contends that AfriForum Solidarity thrived because ANC misrule, which created fertile ground for white disaffection, and because Afrikaans media helped to normalize them. Afrikaans media? Normalize them? What Afrikaans media? What Afrikaans media normalized anything? What Afrikaans media has not attacked the Solidarity and AfriForum? What a comical joke. I'm honestly of the view that AfriSol bosses secretly wish for the South African state to collapse further. Then their alternative state within a state can kick in. The better the South African state is managed, the more AfriSol empire will shrink. These organizations predate the collapse of the ANC. I mean, this is stupid comment. This is Max Dupree. What a clown. What an absolute clown. And Peter DeToy, bigger clown. Assistant editor overseeing investigations. Yeah, you need to investigate yourself for stupidity, Peter DeToy. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Gauteng is ordered to pay Putco, the bus company, $154 million for unpaid bus subsidies. Wow. This is what happens when communists run governments. Pretoria High Court has ordered the Gauteng Transport Department to pay more than $154 million to bus operator Putco over unpaid subsidized bus service contracts. Judgment was handed down on May 13th by Judge Anthony Millar in favor of Putco and directed the Roads and Transport Department to settle the outstanding amount. No wonder these bus companies are in trouble. When you fail to pay, communists take everyone's money. Gate McKenzie attributes the growth of the Patriotic Alliance to faith in God. Well, the Freedom Front Plus has faith in God. The African Christian Democratic Party, it's right there in the title, has faith in God. Al Jamaiah has faith in their God. But the Patriotic Alliance has a monopoly on faith in God. According to Pete McKenzie, that's apparently the case. Let's take a look at this story from News 24. Gate McKenzie believes the PA can dominate the Western Northern Cape in the upcoming elections. PA, found in 2013, has grown steadily and recently secured a by-election victory in the Northern Cape. Election analyst Wayne Sussman described the victory as historic. It will contest all wards in the upcoming elections. McKenzie spoke to News 24 on Tuesday on the sidelines of the National Order Ceremony where he was program director. We are the fastest growing party in the country. The problem that people make is that they only look at McKenzie and think it's a one-man party, but what they do not see is the masses of our people working hard. No, because we've seen no results. PA is a party of hardworking people. We are not only taking from the DA, but we're also taking from the DA in the Western Cape. We're taking from the ANC, the Northern Cape. Those two problems shall be governed by controlled by the Patriotic Alliance. Well, we shall see. We shall see. He added the party would announce its mayoral candidates in the first weeks of August, and that for now it was allowing the losers to go first before unveiling the mighty patriots who would represent the PA. Oh, my goodness. He attributed his party's growth to faith in God. We are a God-fearing party. You will see the will of God will never send you to where the grace of God cannot protect you. Yeah, okay. Thanks for sharing. Appreciate that. Thank you, Gaten. By the way, you're welcome to come on the program too, Gate McKenzie. Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here's an update on Mel and Peet. Mel and Peet. You remember them. Remember them. Do you remember Mel and Peet? Come on, guys. You remember Mel and Peet, right? That's not it. I'm looking for something here. No, it's not here. Where's it at? Damn it. That sucks. I thought I had this. Well, now I gotta go. That ruins it for me. Come on. There it is. Here you go. Remember Mel and Peet, right? Well, Mel has been released from prison. She is out of detention. Yeah, big story here by Ron Fredericks. Starbucks and fresh nails. Mel Fillon's first move after ICE release. When embattled reality TV personality Mel Fillon was released from a detention center in the U.S. on Friday, there was one craving she simply couldn't resist: a Starbucks coffee. That was the first thing she did. After that, she got her nails done. When I stood in Starbucks, I completely forgot I could buy food. I just laughed. I'm not used to having options. I want to have my hair done, my nails, and a facial. I just want to feel groomed again. After 2 months in detention, she wants to feel sexy. I'm confused. If they have money for Starbucks at $7 for a Frappuccino, $5 for a cup of coffee, $80 to do your nails, and she wants to get her hair done for $200, why was she stealing from a grocery store? Why was she stealing from a grocery store, folks? Somebody tell me that. Can somebody explain to me why she was stealing from a grocery store? I don't quite understand that at all. I do not understand that at all. Why is she stealing from a grocery store? Anybody know? Anybody have any idea why? I don't get that. I don't understand that. But, you know, Pete's still in prison, but he wants Starbucks when he gets out, too. Mel and Peet. Yeah, Alligator Alcatraz.
They touched down in the Sunshine State with a plan so grand, thinking they'd be the royalty of this palm tree land. They thought the glamour and glitz was theirs for the taking. Like a birthright claim, all the moves they were making. From the roar of a Ferrari to the red soul stride
Christian Louboutins.
of Christian Louboutin, they had nowhere to hide. Oh, the world figured out those schemes and those scams, turned the power couple into quiet little lambs. No one wants them now, the party's gone dry underneath the hot and heavy Florida sky. Don't defraud America, the lesson is plain, or you find your lifestyle going down the drain. They went from fine dining and vintage champagne to a plastic tray and a heavy iron chain. It's a long fall from grace, a bitter old breeze, from high-end fashion to mac and cheese. Shoplifting doesn't pay, didn't they know? Now they're stars of a very different show. Poor old Pete is locked up in Alligator Alcatraz.
Not anymore.
Lost his designer suits and all of that jazz. And Mel's sitting tight, looking out through the wire at the Broward County ICE facility. The situation is dire. You can take the huckster out of South Africa, it's true, but the scheming stays stuck to them like glue. Will they be convicted? Will they be deported? All their golden dreams have been well and truly thwarted. Time will tell the ending, but the moral is clear. Don't bring your rackets and your swindles round here. No, don't defraud America.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Mel and Peet, the latest on their saga. Mel and Peet. Yeah, she spent the last 2 months in custody, bouncing around the country from the Broward County Detention Facility to Colorado, while meanwhile, old Pete was in Alligator Alcatraz. Then he wound up, I think, in Louisiana or Texas, and then eventually in California. Wow. Boy, she said, there we go. ICE took them custody, and the couple has since been moved around under difficult circumstances. Well, they're criminals. That's why they're under difficult circumstances. Mel was eventually held in Denver, while Pete is still stuck in California. Last Friday, she received permission from an immigration judge to leave the country voluntarily and was finally able to taste freedom this week. It happened so suddenly. Wow, amazing. I'm so glad the nightmare's over. It was such a treat to stop at Starbucks for a coffee. They do it just like in the movies. When they release you have to get an Uber and sort yourself out. Barbie and Ken feel entitled. Yep. They are narcissistic. When Mel first spoke to Rapport after a release, Pete was still waiting for a court date. He'd been struggling to get a date since he was detained, but will likely also now apply to leave the country voluntarily. Yes. When I get out, the first thing I'll get is Starbucks. Being among normal people will also be a treat. Why should we subject normal people to Mel and Peet Filion? Sorry, guys. It's just it's too funny. It's too funny. I should go on a comedy tour. There's so much material here. But Naledi Pandor's expropriation without compensation. Mel and Peet. Yeah, maybe it can be sent to Lesotho. We can deport in West Africa. Maybe we can deport him to West Africa. Oh, back to the news. Cheslin Kolbe will be coming back to the Stormers. Yes! Cheslin Kolbe, having won titles in France, now playing in Japan, will be coming back after a very complicated deal to bring him back to the Stormers. Two-time World Cup winner Cheslin Kolbe set to rejoin the Stormers in a major collaborative deal. Their discussions get Kolbe out of his Tokyo Suntory Sun Goliath contract, which he extended earlier this year. Previously played for the Stormers from 2012-2017 before moving overseas to Toulouse, where he won the Champions Cup and 2 top 14 titles. Two-time World Cup winner as well. 4 pieces of trophy in his closet. Springbok wing and two-time World Cup winner Cheslin Kolbe is set to join the Stormers. According to information obtained from News 24's sister publication Rapport, the 32-year-old will link up with the Cape franchise by 1 July. He'll be back. Yes. Interesting. Project 2029 by John Dobson. He says, definitely very, very close, says a reliable source. Wow. Kolbe will give the side more firepower out wide where the Stormers are thin on the wings with Greek whiz Dylan Mart set to join the Bulls after the Curry Cup. Oh, that sucks. Earlier this season, Mart was on loan to the Stormers, and he did well. Since Mart's return to the Greek whiz, Leyland Zass and Suleiman Hartson have mostly been the Stormers' first-choice wings, and neither have performed up to standard. Sebatla Sanatla, who's getting up there, Joel Leatola, J.C. Mars, Wandele Similani, Damian Willemse, Ezekiel Nkabini, Mfundo Nlovo are among the other players who have featured on the wing for the Stormers for their under-23 side this season. J.C. Mars has a lot of talent. He's the third high-profile player to join the Stormers come July. Sia Khaleesi's coming back as well. Vilko Low must complete his URC commitments before moving to closer to his family in the Cedarburg region. So Vilko Low, Sia Khaleesi, and Cheslin Kolbe all coming to the Stormers. Sia's past it, but maybe he can dig something out of the tank. Ebola responders say cuts by Western nations left them ill-equipped for an outbreak. The sweeping aid cuts have left the DRC struggling to contain an Ebola outbreak despite its extensive experience with the disease. Medical personnel in the Democratic Republic of Congo know what it takes to get an Ebola outbreak under control. They've confronted 17 episodes in 50 years. But this time they said they just don't have the capacity. Sweeping aid cuts by the United States and other Western nations and the World Health Organization left frontline health agencies dangerously underfunded. I'm sorry. And why aren't they funded by Kinshasa? Why aren't these aid workers funded by Kinshasa? Why is it our responsibility to pay for their health care? It's our fault that they didn't get the Ebola under control? No. It's the Congolese fault, not our fault. They've had decades, 60 plus years to get their act together, and they haven't done it. President Trump says that an agreement with Iran is largely negotiated, subject to finalization between the United States, Iran, and several other countries. Well, Trump better not sell us down the river. That's all I got to say. In a Truth Social post, Trump announced he concluded a set of talks with Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Egypt, Bahrain, Jordan, Turkey, and Pakistan. Why are all those countries involved? I get why UAE is involved and Qatar, but Egypt, Jordan, Turkey, Pakistan, why are they involved? Pakistan's been leading the talks, so they belong there. An agreement has been largely negotiated, subject to finalization between the United States, the Islamic Republic of Iran, and various countries. We shall see what comes of that. Iran projects a victory in a potential of Washington, saying they didn't give up anything. Iran's leaders argue that the possible preliminary agreement has not extracted any major concessions. As President Trump, regional diplomats begin to herald the possibility of a deal with Iran that could end the war, spokesman for the Iranian Foreign Ministry responded with his version of a history lesson. Esmail Bagheri, the spokesman, posted an image on social media of a famous relief carved in an archaeological site in Iran that portrays a Roman emperor bowing in submission to a king of the Sassanid, an ancient Iranian empire. In the Roman mind, Rome was the undisputed center of the world. In apparent reference to the political and military might of Washington today, the Iranians shattered that illusion. Just bomb them. Just bomb them. Just bomb them. It's just time to go back to start launching bombs. Iran executed a man accused of spying for the U.S. and Israelis. Iran on Sunday hanged a man who was accused of relaying the coordinates of a defense facility that was later destroyed in an airstrike, marking the regime's first known execution for espionage during its war with Israel and the United States. Montaja Kian was hanged less than 50 days after his arrest. He was charged with sending numerous messages to hostile networks affiliated with the Zionist American enemy. The state-owned Mizan news agency said the information included the location of factories that are part of Iran's defense industry. A technical analysis of the messages exchanged between the defendant and enemy elements shows that 3 days after sending the information, the location in question was targeted by the enemy and completely destroyed. In addition to hanging him, they confiscated all of his property. Charged under recently enacted law and intensifying the punishment for espionage in cooperation with the Zionist regime in hostile countries against national security interests. More than 1,600 people were executed in Iran last year, a 8% increase compared to 2024. Trump needs to obliterate this regime. Well, China has an answer for Rolls-Royce, but they rely on French tires. Notice that this Gucci-looking Rolls-Royce Maxtro S800 with all the extras at $173,000, a bargain basement price for the ultra-luxury, uses Michelin tires. The Chinese still use French tires. At an imposing 18 feet long, the Maxtro S800 sedan gives off Rolls-Royce vibes with its two-tone color scheme and abundant soft leather. But it isn't the product of craftsmen in the English countryside. The battery-powered car is manufactured with the help of more than 1,000 robots in Hefei, China, and runs on technology from the country's Huawei, which makes coffee pots, kettles. Its preeminent symbol, Chinese automakers push to dominate the top end of the car market after they seize the global lead in affordable electric vehicles. Chinese companies know they have the heritage of don't have a heritage of Mercedes or Rolls-Royce. Their strategy is to stuff their vehicles so much gadgetry that owners forget the dreams of European luxury. It features a 40-inch screen with around 40 speakers for the entertainment. The VIP stretching their legs in the back. The car costs equivalent to $173,000, and a version without big screen can be had for as little as $104,000, half the price for starter Mercedes Maybach, and a quarter of what a Rolls-Royce costs in the U.S. Pretty big, pretty luxurious. Curious what that divot is on the passenger side carpet. There's like a little shield divot in the floor carpet. This is how they build them, with robots. They don't even use people. There it is, the Maxtro. Recently, I took a ride in the Maxtro through Beijing streets. To get in, I opened the door with a fist gesture detected by a camera at the front door. An idea that came from Huawei smartphones allow users to take a screenshot with a similar gesture. Inside, I closed the door with a wave of my hand and turned the window shade dark with a swipe of my finger. The black seat reclines nearly fully like a business class airline seat. Wow, look at that. Check it out. They're wowing people with their Chinese. Well, congratulations to the Chinese for trying to copy the Maybach edition of Mercedes-Benz. China has eliminated tariffs on most goods from Africa. And for some reason, Alexander Wexler, a writer for the Wall Street Journal, is completely ignorant of the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act. Why is it that the Wall Street Journal has become a pro-Chinese communist outlet? How about context? You search for the word "ago" in this story, it does not appear. The acronym. China eliminates tariffs on Africa to outmaneuver Trump. Beijing's politically astute move contrasts with U.S. tariff barrage, except Alexander Wexler is incorrect. What tariff barrage? AGOA has been renewed. African countries are finding it hard to export to the U.S. since President Trump returned to the White House with a long list of tariffs, but China sees their struggle as an opportunity. Since May 1st, Beijing has removed tariffs on all goods from 53 of 54 countries in an effort to win business and influence across the continent. The difference is Beijing has done this for just a couple of years, and they waited 30 years to do it. The United States has done this for decades. So interesting. And this is where they're importing from Africa. China imports from South Africa about $30 billion, and from the U.S., China takes in $30 billion from South Africa, and the U.S. takes in about $15 billion, half as much. From the Congo, China's taking tons in, but this is all raw materials, folks. It's not finished goods. The U.S. is buying finished goods from South Africa. From the Congo, they're buying almost nothing. Copper, a little bit of copper, coltan. From Nigeria, both are importing oil, and from Egypt, the U.S. is buying finished goods, whereas China is doing the same. How can this story, which is published on the 23rd of May, 2026, not mention AGOA? It's not mentioned anywhere in this story. It's just talking about how China has... I mean, how does this pass editors? What kind of editors work at these papers? China's zero tariff initiative might allow Beijing to regain some lost ground in Africa. For decades, China flooded the continent with loans large enough to finance large Chinese-built ports, airports, railroads, and other infrastructure. China's loan commitments to Africa total $181 billion between 2000 and 2024. But China faced frequent complaints that its work was sometimes shoddy. It was always shoddy, and its loans terms onerous. Yep. But she never mentions AGOA. 25 years of duty-free access. This is just ridiculous. How can we take a publication like the Wall Street Journal seriously? It's become a leftist rag instead of a business newspaper. What a tragedy. What a tragedy. Can't even report the truth. At least 14 people killed in a bombing attack that derailed a train in Pakistan. A passenger train in southwestern Pakistan, local officials said in the latest outbreak of violence in the region gripped by a long-running separatist insurgency. 14 people killed. 8 a.m. as people were going to and from work. France bans an Israeli minister over treatment of the detained flotilla activists. Itamar Ben-Gvir, the Israeli national security minister, has long drawn criticism for his hardline statements and harsh policies against Palestinian prisoners. Now he's being barred from going to France. This week he posted a video of himself taunting the activists who were shown handcuffed and pinned to the deck of a ship. Flotilla's participants later said they were beaten and assaulted while detained. The video ignited outrage abroad, particularly in Italy, Germany, and other countries whose citizens participate in the flotilla. U.S. Ambassador in Jerusalem, Haik Makami, issued a rare denunciation of Mr. Ben-Gvir's conduct. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also condemned his actions. And now he's been banned from France. Tens of thousands of people rallying in Serbia against the authoritarian rule of President Vučić. Protesters streamed into the central square of the capital, Belgrade, from several directions, mainly carrying banners and wearing T-shirts inscribed "The Students Win," motto of the youth movement. Columns of cars drove into Belgrade from other Serbian towns earlier in the day. Of course, they led a mass demonstrations back in November 2024 where 16 people were killed. Yes. Russia pummels Kiev in a major missile and drone attack. Early hours Sunday morning. Russia unleashed a huge missile and drone attack in Ukraine's capital early Sunday morning. Explosions and rattled buildings for hours. Crazy, folks. This Russian conflict is not over. People keep acting like it's just not there, but it is still going on. It is still going on, and people just keep forgetting about it. Don't forget, we've got the interview with South African refugees coming up here shortly, and that will be at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, 6:30 South Africa time. And then after that, instead of the Cafe Clutch, it's a special session today. There will be no chat initially until I finish my monologue about the refugee program. That's coming up at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. or 8 p.m. South Africa time. Okay, back to the news. Let's get back to our news here. Joe Biden gave parole to an criminal alien Cuban pilot who was implicated in the Raul Castro plot to kill Americans. Last week's indictment of Raul Castro and 5 Cuban pilots for 1996 killing of 4 Americans flying humanitarian mission near Cuba had a curious footnote. One of the pilots is already in the U.S. Luis Raul Gonzalez Pardo Rodriguez came to the U.S. in 2024, entered the country thanks to one of Joe Biden's parole programs. That a retired lieutenant colonel of the Cuban Air Force was allowed in marks a major failure in vetting by the Biden administration, undercuts the claims of former Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas said every parolee underwent national security and public safety vetting. It's deeply alarming that one of the indicted regime pilots was allowed into the United States under the Biden regime without proper vetting. See, there you go, folks. That's why Trump suspended these programs for refugees, because the vetting wasn't being done. Sharon Dawson, thank you for 14 rand. That's why. That's exactly why. We've got a Cuban who's involved in the shooting down and killing of 4 Americans, and a lieutenant colonel in the Cuban Air Force who was led into this country. Can you believe that? And refugees are worried about if they serve in the South African Defense Force, would they not be allowed in? Under Biden, people who shot down Americans in planes over the Gulf of America in the Cuban Air Force are led in the country under Joe Biden. Ottawa did not provide credible response to Pentagon's proposed defense pact, according to U.S. officials. U.S. officials have sent a classified report to Canada about updating our security agreements. Thank you, Pizza Party, for the 20 rand. And Ottawa has failed to respond. Lack of response is just one of several irritants for senior Pentagon officials is creating a rift in North American defense cooperation. Canada's delayed decision around the procurement of F-35 jets was also cited as a source of frustration, as well as what role will they play in the Golden Dome? Probably none, which is problematic. We'll need that space to put down these radars. Suspect is dead and a bystander injured in a shooting outside the White House. Shot by Secret Service officers after firing at them outside a checkpoint. Gunfire erupted 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time after the man approached the checkpoint, pulled a weapon from his bag, and started firing at the officers posted there. Officers returned fire, hitting him. Authorities are still trying to determine whether the officers or the suspect shot the bystander, whose condition couldn't immediately be determined. President Trump was at the White House, but was not affected by this. This violence by leftists become increasingly frightening. The Centers for Disease Control expanded temporary Ebola entry ban to green card holders. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention expanded a 30-day ban on entry to the United States for green card holders over the widening Ebola outbreak in Central Africa. And former Air Force pilot who trained Chinese communist pilots and betrayed this nation, this treasonous bastard, is being indicted. Combat veteran Gerald Eddie Brown was grounded in the U.S. and looking for a chance to fly again. The Chinese gave it to him. So this piece of crap purportedly, well, not purportedly, trained the Chinese. Wow. He's recruited. Prosecutors allege that Brown provided unauthorized training to China's Air Force, including speaking at a Beijing military conference on topics including the F-35 stealth fighter and the structure of the U.S. Air Force. He also allegedly met Chinese military intelligence officials at least 10 to 15 times, answering questions on topics including his career and his work at Lockheed Martin, where he was an F-35 simulator instructor. Another one. And here's another clown who betrayed our country, Daniel Dugan, a Marine who was arrested, naturalized Australian citizen, faces extradition to the United States for his betrayal. These treasonous bastards are selling us down the river. And this is part of what the South African Flying Test Academy also did. That's right. The South Africans also did this to us, betraying us to the Chinese communists. Maryland Democratic leaders hint towards special redistricting section. Maryland redistricted the state about 15 years ago and eliminated almost all of the Republican-dominated districts, creating super bizarre geographical institutions. There are districts that prevented Republicans from getting in office. And now they want to eliminate the only remaining Republican seat on the Eastern Shore. These are evil people who need to be controlled. Democratic-controlled Maryland could be jumping into the national redistricting surge, said State Senate President Bill Ferguson. Only one congressional district remains for Republicans, and they want to steal it by breaking it in part and making it part of other districts. This has been going on forever. California is bracing for a toxic chemicals leak. I've been talking about this for a couple of days. Efforts to stabilize a damaged industrial tank have made little headway, and more than 40,000 people have been ordered to leave their homes. The tank contains methyl methacrylate, a toxic substance used to make plastic and cause breathing and other issues. California authorities are bracing Saturday for a leak or explosion that could send toxic vapors in the air after efforts to contain a damaged chemical tank made little headway. The emergency started Thursday when the fire department responded to a vapor leak at a 34,000-gallon tank in Garden Grove, home to GKN Aerospace, a British maker of jet parts. More than 40,000 people have been ordered to leave their homes. Does it rupture or spill? Does it blow up? But prospects could be devastating. The tank contains methyl methacrylate, a toxic chemical used to make plastic and cause eye, skin, and breathing issues. Short-term exposure can irritate the lungs and nasal passages. Wow. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is not quite the news. The Obama Presidential Library, for a whopping $800 million to go watch The Racist in Chief. Cherry blossoms in bloom in Jackson Park near the Obama Presidential Center. Yep, years overdue, and at $30 adult admission, it's the most expensive presidential library. Visitors get a preview of the home court of the Obama Presidential Center. Campus is free and open to the public, but you have to pay to go into the museum. If you want to smoke, Obama enjoyed, you can buy cigarettes, but the local sales tax is $7.16 a pack. Yeah, the top presidential ticket price is $30 to visit that museum, just passing the Nixon rate at 29. This is years overdue, and it costs $800 million. $800 million. Purchases at the gift shop will include a combined local sales tax of 10.25, the highest, one of the highest in the nations. There's also a 15 cents tax on a shopping bag. While the project was initially estimated to cost $300 million, the final price tag hit $850 million. 19.3-acre campus to the racist in chief. Ivanka Trump was the subject of an IRCG terrorist plot to assassinate her. First daughter Ivanka Trump was reportedly an assassination target by IRCG-trained terrorists who made a pledge to kill her. Recently captured Iraqi national Mohammed Baghar Saeed Dawood al-Sadi allegedly targeted President Trump's daughter over a U.S. drone strike that killed Soleimani. We're not telling people we need to kill Ivanka to burn down the house of Trump the way he burned down our house. So he's been captured. He intended to kill Ivanka Trump. Well, here's some good news. A man who found $30,000 in a Wawa petrol station, convenience store, returned the money in a bathroom. Money was in a lost fanny pack, was from the owner's sales of Pokemon collectibles as he sought to raise money for his sister's medical procedure. A Florida man walked into a Wawa bathroom in Palm Beach County, Florida, carrying a black fanny pack that contained proceeds from selling his Pokemon collectibles, $30,023 in cash. He planned to use the money to help pay for a medical procedure for his sister. But after the man left Wawa, was driving south to Coral Springs, he realized he left his fanny pack stuffed with cash in the bathroom. When he returned, his bag was gone. He called the police department and then began to open a grand theft investigation. I thought it was absolutely screwed. When officers identified the suspect a few days later and calling him, he said he'd been trying to return the money to the owner. The man, Luis Salazar, said that after finding a fanny pack in the handicapped bar of the bathroom, he searched Wawa in his parking lot multiple times. Salazar said he recognized the owner's sandals when he returned the fanny pack to him at the police station. This is yours. You're a lifesaver. So they opened an investigation, but the guy returned the money. He said $30,000 is great, but it's not mine to keep. Yeah, exactly. Smart man. Anyway, that's it for the news, folks. Be sure to hit the like button if you haven't done it already. We have a live stream coming up in just a moment with South African refugees. Okay? So we'll leave it on a good note with that one. That's going to do it for today. Be sure to hit the like button if you have not done already, and hopefully we'll see most of you 385 at the next, or 396 currently here at the next one. Just 263 likes. Come on, you can do better than that. You can do better than that. Yeah, Obama's library should be called Mount Doom. Yep, he's a dystopian clown. That's going to do it for this stream, folks. Thanks for being here, and we'll catch you shortly. Excuse me. On the interview, and then we have a session a little bit later for refugees. Cheers.